Nick Wright joins us live. First things first, host. Are you surprised that the market, now I do think Saquon with a better O-line, they also have two good receivers in Philly, so you can't load the box with your safeties because you have to respect the receiver. So I do think Saquon to Philly does make them a better team. But Russell to the Steelers, it doesn't move the numbers at all. Does that surprise you?
Well, let me deal with it in order. I agree with you that in theory, Saquon is a nice addition for the Eagles, and it will be fun to see Saquon on an offense for the first time in his career where every defense is not exclusively focused on stopping him.
Yeah.
For Philadelphia, it is an odd use of resources because I watched Philly last year, and to me, 80% of their issues were about the back seven of that defense. There were a lot of talented safeties available, Justin Simmons and others, to focus on running game and offense. I know they have an offensive-minded head coach. I understand that Howie has drafted a lot of defensive linemen, but it felt to me like Philly should have focused on what was their obvious weakness, which was their egregious pass defense and overall defense last season. To Pittsburgh, no, it doesn't surprise me at all. Like, Russell Wilson is better than Kenny Pickett, and that's about it. Like, I don't know at what when Mike Tomlin gives up on Russell Wilson, then will everyone maybe acknowledge, maybe Pete Carroll and Sean Payton were onto something here.
Yeah.
But Russell Wilson, 3 years ago, healthier, more productive. Pete Carroll said, you know what? Juice not worth the squeeze. We're going to make the trade. Nat Hackett got fired trying to fix Russell Wilson. Sean Payton was brought in to fix Russell Wilson. And before the end of the year, no matter what those silly touchdown interception ratio numbers tell you, your eyes told you he was playing terribly, and Sean Payton told you he was playing terribly. So he went to Jared Stidham. They are now flirting with Zach Wilson and Russell Wilson's dead cap hit. And now Pittsburgh, what they're saying to me is, $1 million. $1 million, why not? And because it's $1 million, if Pickett takes a massive leap this summer, which I don't think he will, but I know some people in that front office and that coaching staff like him, we can still make Kenny the starter because Russell Wilson has no leverage or power here. So, no, I look at the Steelers as a team with a great defensive player in Watt, a good overall defense, an excellent head coach, and an offense that, to me, hasn't been scary in 6 years since, the 3 years before the end of Big Ben. So, no, this doesn't change that.
Are you surprised at all? I'm not. J-Mac had said 6 months ago he thought Justin Fields had a big market, and I said, listen, this is a division that doesn't have good defenses. Minnesota, Green Bay, and Detroit are not good defenses, and he struggled in that division. He didn't face the Chiefs' defense, or, like he wasn't facing Baltimore's defense. He was facing 3 weak defenses. He still struggled. So there's no market. Are you surprised?
I am a little surprised that there's no market. But when we were before free agency started, if you actually put pen to paper and said, okay, which teams have a quarterback, take them out of it. Which teams in the last 2 years have drafted a quarterback, take them out of it. Which teams this year think they are drafting their quarterback? So obviously New England, Washington, take them out of it. You were down to just a handful of teams that thought they needed a quarterback, even if we think more teams did. When Atlanta, which was the obvious fit, decides to go with Kirk Cousins, then it's like it might be Pittsburgh or bust. And when Pittsburgh then goes with Russell Wilson, now if you're Justin Fields, I think your best hope is that you get to compete for a starting job, maybe in New York with the Giants? Is that a possibility? Is there somewhere else you can go where there is, could you end up going to Minnesota if they are not able to draft a quarterback? So I personally think that this might not be resolved and it's going to be uncomfortable, and the Bears are going to have to wait until next year to get the real asset, but until after the draft, when one of these teams does not end up with their quarterback. The Raiders were a possible spot.
Yeah.
They decide to go with Gardner Minshew instead. So I think you're running out of viable options, and the Bears, who I think were very confident they were getting at least a second-round pick, at this point, Colin, I would expect Justin Fields to go for, oddly, what Trey Lance went for. A fourth-round pick to somebody without any chance of being the guaranteed starter. I think that's where this lands.
You know, Atlanta should be better with Kirk Cousins, but if you're stacking up winners and losers, to me, the minute the NFL said, hey, you guys all get another $30 million in salary because of the TV revenue, the winners were Kansas City. The winners were the good team San Francisco, who didn't have to peel off stars. That's my take on the winners. Baltimore gets to sign for a pretty penny interior D lineman. Those were decisions Chris Jones, George Kittle, teams could have. For you, who are the winners?
Well, listen, I think people are going to kill Dallas because Dallas hasn't signed anybody. But typically signing a bunch of guys on the first day or two of free agency is a fool's errand. Kansas City just signed their first player, Irv Smith Jr., probably for around, a few $1 million. I think being judicious with your money, I agree with you on because of the cap spike, the Chiefs are able to re-sign Chris Jones and for the time being have L'Jarius Sneed on that $20 million franchise tag and not have to painfully restructure anything or move on from some players. I'm going to take it from a slightly different angle, Colin. Despite the cap spike, Buffalo, Miami, and the Chargers are all having to peel away talent, which speaks to the fact that all three of those AFC teams, they didn't necessarily go all in, but they pushed a decent amount of chips to the middle of the table.
Yeah.
And none of them have anything to show for it.
True.
Miami's got to let Christian Wilkins walk out the door for nothing. They move on from Xavier Howard. Buffalo moves on from the entirety of their secondary. They lose Gabe Davis, who might have been a slightly overrated player, but still a useful one. And the Chargers, it hasn't happened yet, Colin, but Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Khalil Mack, and Joey Bosa, all four of those guys right now are on the books cap hit next year for $32 to $37 million, each of them. At least one and maybe two of them are going to be cut in the next 24 hours. So those teams, to me, the question I had is, what were they going to do if there wasn't a cap spike, Colin? They're having to move money around and cut people even with it. So, yeah, I think San Francisco, Kansas City, obviously Baltimore, which I know just added Derrick Henry, and they have some work to do, I think, on the defensive side. Those teams having the added extra $15 million probably made this period a lot easier for them.
I said the number one ice cream for the 30th year in a row is vanilla. But if you order it with friends,
chocolate.
Well, if you order it with friends, everybody will turn to you and go, "You're so boring." And I'm like, I know Kirk Cousins is boring. Since he signed with the Vikings, he has tied for the third highest passer rating and the third most touchdown passes in a league with Patrick Mahomes. So I know everybody kind of goes and rolls their eyes, but you know what you get. He's efficient, usually makes starts on Sunday. Like, I think in that division, again, he's not going to face Herbert, Harbaugh, Reed, Mahomes. To me, in that division, he's worth a lot of money.
Yeah, well, all right. Well, before I directly answer your question, I do have a question for you. Are you often, Colin, going to ice cream parlors with large groups of friends? Is that like a part of your Saturday afternoon? And then worried about being judged for your choices? Buddy, if you like vanilla with sprinkles, don't let anyone shame you out of it. That's a classic. There's nothing wrong with it. But to your point about Kirk, if you're Raheem Morris, you got a head coaching job almost 15 years ago, and you never really had a chance to succeed because Josh Freeman, with respect, Kansas City kid, was your quarterback, and it never got off the ground, right? You just never really fully got off the ground. And so if you're Raheem Morris and now you have another chance, what you are going to do is say, we want stability and a known quantity. Now, asking the 36-year-old post-Achilles to be the stability, there is some risk there. But if you're Atlanta, Colin, and you have spent more top 10 picks in the last few years on skill position guys than any team in football, spent a top 10 pick on a wide receiver, Drake London, on a running back, Bijan Robinson, on a tight end, Kyle Pitts. You have an excellent offensive line. You have, according to the smart people numbers, an actually very underrated defense. Can you, with just above average quarterback play, with the 11th or 12th best quarterback in football, which Cousins has been, can you be an 11-win team and win that division? Absolutely. And for the Falcons, with their playoff drought, that makes a lot of sense, and I'm excited to see what those players, London, Pitts, and Bijan, are going to look like with an adult, competent level NFL quarterback, which they now have.
Well, we both love Kevin Wildes. As a Patriot guy, it must sting a little to see that Mac Jones went for a 6. What did you make of that?
Well, listen, you said we both love Kevin Wildes, and I do, but I shouldn't air, FS1 dirty laundry on the air, but I will. I was very disappointed with Kevin yesterday. I actually think it was a low point of our show because Kevin is stuck in denial. Because I'll tell you what he made of it, quarterback controversy in Jacksonville. That Jacksonville is going to have a competition. He said, Colin, he said this on the air, on television, not like off the air privately. This was his big take. So that, of course, was, mortifying for all involved, not just us co-hosts, but all colleagues at the network. I mean, it was really a bad moment in FS1 history.
Yeah.
What I make of it is that when the whole idea behind Mac Jones was low ceiling but high floor.
Yeah.
Right? He's not going to wow you with anything, but he's going to be a ready-made day one starter. And if you are a low ceiling, high floor guy, a few things can't happen, which did happen to Mac. One is his confidence was clearly shattered. Yeah. Another one was, and you can tell by whether it's Bailey Zappi's Instagram likes or by any reporting around the team, he was not well liked within that locker room, certainly near the end. And then the last thing is you have to make sure you maintain high floor as opposed to turning the ball over every game. When all of those things go away, the reason that Sam Darnold, Colin, your guy, who he's just going to be getting $10 million a year for the rest of his life. The reason Sam can keep getting chances is because even though he has shown a floor as low as Mac's, you still feel like, but man, that potential. Yeah. There's a reason Cowherd can't quit him, and people like him.
Yep.
If you're not that well liked in the locker room and people say at your best, you're average, then all of a sudden you go for a 6th-round pick and you're competing with C.J. Beathard to be the backup, not with Trevor Lawrence to be the starter. Wildes, if you're watching while eating your arugula salad upstairs. What an outrageous take that was.
By the way, Sam Darnold, comeback player of the year, got the left tackle, 2 receivers, tight end, offensive coach. Hey. Shanahan liked him.
Can I tell?
Kevin O'Connell liked him, and reportedly Sean
Can I
Payton
tell you something? Can I tell you something about how different Sam Darnold is discussed in this 4.5-hour block on FS1 from what you just said about him here and what you've said about him too? If he makes the show today, which I don't know if he will, the question our producer Stephen Hubbard put in the rundown for the Sam Darnold topic is this: should Justin Jefferson demand a trade? So there's quite a difference of opinion on what Sam Darnold is going to bring to the Vikings between noon and 4:30 Eastern on FS1. That much I know.
All right. Hi, everybody. It's me, Uncle Colin. Subscribe here to get the latest from the herd, including exclusive behind-the-scenes videos and more, wherever you may be, however you may be watching. Thanks again for making us part of your day.